Immigration policy has long been one of the most contentious issues in American politics. Successive administrations have struggled to balance border security with humanitarian obligations, economic needs, and constitutional protections. The return of former President Donald Trump to office in January marked a renewed focus on strict enforcement and mass removals of undocumented immigrants. 7 months into his term, the administration claims measurable results: a significant decline in the number of undocumented individuals living in the United States. Yet, critics argue that the methods used, the legality of certain facilities, and the broader implications for American values raise more questions than answers. At the center of the current debate is a detention facility in Florida, informally referred to as Alligator Alcatraz. The site has drawn legal challenges, particularly surrounding environmental regulations, while also becoming a symbol for Trump's hardline approach. Supporters see it as a necessary component of enforcement, while opponents view it as an emblem of excessive and un-American practices. This divide underscores a broader national conversation. Has strict immigration enforcement truly improved national security and social conditions, or has it compromised fundamental principles of justice and dignity? To understand the current controversy, it is essential to examine how immigration enforcement has evolved under different administrations. Former President Barack Obama's administration, for example, oversaw the highest number of deportations in modern history. By focusing on individuals with criminal records and enhancing cooperation between federal and local law enforcement, the Obama White House removed millions of undocumented immigrants over 8 years. Critics labeled him the deporter-in-chief, a title that reflected the scale of removals but also the bipartisan tensions surrounding enforcement. President Joe Biden, despite campaigning on a more compassionate approach, maintained significant deportation levels. In 2024, federal figures show that more than 685,000 individuals were deported, a number exceeding the annual total projected under Trump's current administration. Biden also implemented restrictions on asylum claims, reducing the number of people eligible to enter the country and contributing to a measurable decline in border crossings. While criticized from the left for abandoning promises of reform, his policies nonetheless achieved substantial enforcement results. Against this backdrop, Trump's current strategy represents a shift not only in scope but in style. His administration emphasizes deterrence through high-profile enforcement actions, larger funding allocations to Immigration and Customs Enforcement (ICE), and expanded use of detention facilities. The goal, according to officials, is to create an unmistakable message: unlawful entry will not be tolerated and remaining in the country without authorization carries real consequences. Since returning to office, Trump has pledged to remove millions of undocumented immigrants. In pursuit of this objective, ICE and other agencies have conducted nationwide operations, often accompanied by substantial media attention. The administration has also introduced what it calls incentivized departures, programs offering free transportation and modest financial assistance to encourage voluntary return to countries of origin. Officials argue that such measures increase efficiency by reducing reliance on lengthy deportation proceedings. By July, the administration claimed that approximately 1,600,000 undocumented immigrants had departed the country through a combination of formal deportations and voluntary exits. Supporters cite this as evidence that Trump's agenda is already succeeding despite opposition from courts and local governments. They argue that reducing the undocumented population will ease burdens on public services, lower crime rates, and improve job opportunities for American workers. However, independent analysts urge caution. Research organizations point out that part of the recent decline in border crossings and undocumented presence can be traced to policies enacted under President Biden, particularly the restrictions on asylum. Moreover, the reliability of projected deportation figures remains contested. While the Trump administration anticipates removing more than 500,000 individuals by the end of the year, critics note that Biden's 2024 figures already surpass that number. Few symbols capture the divide over immigration enforcement more starkly than the Florida facility dubbed Alligator Alcatraz. Supporters of the administration describe it as a secure and lawful center designed to house individuals awaiting deportation. Critics, by contrast, argue that conditions within the facility, as well as the broader optics of militarized enforcement, erode American values and international human rights standards. Recently, a federal court ruling challenged the facility not on grounds of human rights violations, but over alleged breaches of environmental regulations. While the administration maintains that the site complies with federal law, Opponents see the ruling as evidence of deeper problems with the government's approach. The debate surrounding the facility illustrates how immigration enforcement often intersects with multiple areas of policy, from environmental protection to local governance. The central question remains: are strict enforcement measures an effective and justified way to address immigration challenges, or do they undermine the principles upon which the nation is built? Supporters of the Trump administration emphasize results. They highlight declining undocumented populations, increased border security, and the promise of reduced pressure on social services. They also argue that Trump faces more institutional resistance than previous presidents, including opposition from local governments and courts, which makes his achievements more noteworthy. Opponents counter that focusing on headline-grabbing raids and controversial facilities creates more division than progress. They point to Obama's record as evidence that deportations can be carried out effectively without resorting to provocative tactics. They also stress the importance of balancing enforcement with compassion, particularly for families, children, and individuals with long-standing ties to the United States. To critics, Trump's approach risks alienating allies, undermining constitutional protections, and damaging America's global reputation as a defender of human rights. A key feature of the debate is how Trump's record compares to those of his predecessors. Obama's presidency remains notable for its sheer scale of deportations, with millions of removals conducted over 2 terms. Biden, despite pursuing a narrower set of enforcement priorities, still deported more individuals in 1 year than Trump is currently projected to achieve. These comparisons complicate the narrative that Trump is uniquely effective. They also highlight how immigration enforcement is not confined to a single administration but reflects broader trends and pressures in American politics. Another dimension of the debate is the role played by the judiciary and local governments. Trump officials argue that activist judges and uncooperative municipalities hinder enforcement efforts. Sanctuary cities, for example, often limit cooperation with ICE, making it harder to detain and remove undocumented individuals. Court rulings can delay or block specific policies, further complicating implementation. Supporters frame these obstacles as partisan resistance, while critics view them as essential checks on executive power. This tension reflects a larger constitutional question. To what extent should immigration enforcement be centralized under the federal government, and how much autonomy should states and localities retain? The balance of power between federal authority and local discretion remains a recurring theme in American governance, and immigration is one of the most visible battlegrounds. Beyond the legal and political debates, immigration policy has tangible effects on communities. Supporters of mass removals argue that reducing the undocumented population will free up jobs for citizens, lower competition in the labor market, and reduce strains on public benefits programs. They also suggest that stronger enforcement could help reduce crime and homelessness in certain regions. Critics, however, note that undocumented immigrants often play vital roles in industries such as agriculture, construction, and service work. Removing large numbers of workers, they argue, could disrupt local economies and drive up costs for consumers. Families and communities with mixed legal statuses also face significant stress, with children in particular experiencing emotional and educational challenges when parents are detained or deported. Balancing these economic and humanitarian considerations remains one of the most difficult aspects of immigration policy. The debate over Trump's immigration enforcement raises broader questions about what kind of system Americans want for the future. There is widespread agreement that borders should be secure and immigration should be orderly. Yet there is less consensus on how to deal with the millions of undocumented individuals already living in the country. Options range from expanded deportations to pathways toward legal status, each carrying distinct political and social implications. Some policymakers advocate for a guest worker program to support industries reliant on immigrant labor. Others emphasize the need for asylum reform, ensuring that the system both protects those fleeing persecution and prevents abuse. Still others focus on technological investments at the border, enhanced screening measures, and greater cooperation with neighboring countries. These debates suggest that immigration policy will remain at the forefront of American politics for years to come. 7 months into Trump's renewed term, the United States finds itself in familiar territory, deeply divided over immigration. Supporters see progress in declining undocumented numbers and stronger enforcement. Critics see a troubling departure from American ideals and question the accuracy of official figures. The controversy over facilities like Alligator Alcatraz reflects the difficulty of reconciling security with compassion, law with justice, and national interest with human dignity. What remains clear is that immigration will continue to test the country's values, institutions, and capacity for compromise. Whether through mass removals, comprehensive reform, or a blend of approaches, the path forward will shape not only the lives of millions of immigrants but also the identity of the nation itself.